popular mechanics. They did an incredible job in the writing of the definitive debunking of the 9/11 conspiracy that everybody knows now is not true. James is here now to do the same with the FEMA camps.
I had the benefit of doing the Alex Jones show last night.
You don't need a conspiracy theory. You don't need to go to the Bilderbergers. I mean, it's as useful as going to the Whataburgers. I think the bailout is the right thing to do.
I was for the Patriot Act.
The Bilderbergers had their meeting. I don't really know much about these people. I really don't care.
Yeah, you know what? Buckets of fluoride, man.
9/11 truthers, who I've been telling you for years are dangerous.
White supremacists or 9/11 truthers that would also like to destroy the country. This guy is a hero in the 9/11 truther community.
He has invited 9/11 truthers into the White House. He is in danger.
I want to talk now directly to Glenn Beck. Glenn, I've been watching you and listening to you for a long, long time, and now you're probably one of the most prominent political figures in the United States and worldwide. And I have challenged you repeatedly to be on the right side of history, to really tell the truth about world population reduction, to discuss the fact that global governance is real and that it controls both parties. And I've seen a lot of things out of you that were really frightening. I saw you demonize Ron Paul 2.5 years ago and say his supporters might be violent terrorists. I saw you support the banker bailout. I witnessed you support the Patriot Act and glorify Jack Bauer and torture as a real man. So I don't trust you, but I'm a man of my word. And I'm going to say right now that I began the last few months making a documentary about the co-opting of the Tea Party, the counterfeit Tea Party. And I was thinking about calling it the Glenn Beck Deception. We even bought the domain. And we're going to finish the film in the next 3 months. But more and more, I think the film is going to actually commend you for much of the work you're doing, but also point out some of the treacherous things that you've done in the past. Glenn, I'm going to be honest with you. In the last decade, I rarely tuned in. And in the last few years when you were on CNN and Fox, I would really just see YouTube boil downs of the things that you were up to. But in the last few months, doing research for this film, we've been watching your television show every day. And last week, I watched the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday show, and I was amazed. You are definitely now, currently, doing a lot more good than bad. And I salute you. You are trailblazing. You are reaching tens of millions of people every week with the truth. And I just wanted to say that on record, that you are beginning to get on the right side of history. Now, that said, if you look at the Alexa ratings, Infowars.com, PrisonPlanet.com, combined are bigger than all of your websites put together. And I have confirmed from people inside Fox News, the highest levels, that you do have as many as 5 people that listen to the show. And now, actually viewing your program, I can see it. Everything. The mannerisms, the statements, a rat maze where we're rats being given false information and false choices. I'm really flattered, actually, that my research, my ideas are having such an effect through you. And I'm very pleased to see that happening. And the writers of your books, the ghostwriters, the people that load your teleprompter every day that you masterfully then read from, they definitely know what's happening and have shown a depth and breadth of wisdom that indicates that they have to understand about false flag terror. They have to understand the Gulf of Tonkin was staged and that's declassified. They have to know about Operation Northwoods. They have to know about Operation Gladio and Ajax and the Army field manuals that are declassified where they train the U.S. Army officers how to stage terror attacks. So I would challenge you to go all the way. I mean, next week you say you're doing a whole week on the global government and how it wants to forcibly reduce our world population. And you were covering global government by 2025 from the U.S. government. We wrote 7 stories about this report 2 years ago when it came out. I mean, I have to say that you're doing a lot of good, and that's why you're under attack by the progressives, as you call them. But here's my critique. You talk about the leaders of this world government being people like Cass Sunstein and mid-level minions of this system.
Soros? I think you have, I don't even know, Valerie Jarrett. Cass Sunstein, Van Jones, a knight that will go out and fight.
You know full well, and the people that write for your show know full well, that the Fortune 100 to a company promote world governance. And so that's what you need to explain to them. To really simplify it, on one of your programs last week, you said the globalists don't want to take Rupert Murdoch's money and give it to you as redistribution. They want to take Rupert Murdoch's money and send it to Venezuela. If you want to get this right on your show, globalism, it's taking our money and saying they sent it to Venezuela, but really sending it to the IMF and World Bank. And a domestic example of that is tens of billions of dollars a year in behavior placement, which Fox News and Fox Television admit they promote, to tell us global warming is real.
Press button to see what global warming will do in the next 3 years.
3 years is a long ways away.
What if the Scared Straight show had a green message too?
The biggest thing we've done is inserting messages about the environment into some of our content.
So see, your boss covers the whole market. He's got all the leftist stuff controlled. He's out promoting the carbon taxes to Fox TV viewers and viewers of 20th Century Fox movies. And then he's got Glenn Beck over here. But he realizes his neocon operation hadn't suppressed the truth, so now he's coming out to control that market to steer it. There's no doubt about your boss who has fundraisers for Hillary Clinton. Globalism is taking my tax money and giving it to Rupert Murdoch to put out propaganda. You know about propaganda placement, the term I coined more than a decade ago. The media now calls it behavior placement, that tens of billions a year are spent at Fox, CNN, NBC, all of them, paying for what's on the newscast. So you understand that. I want to support you. I want to get behind what you're doing. But I realize that Fox News are the people that told us torture and the Patriot Act was a good thing. And here's an important message to your viewers. Long before the Mayak report was sent to us by law enforcement, we broke it last year, where they demonized returning veterans, gun owners, conservatives, Ron Paul supporters. We had been sent the same reports from law enforcement when Bush was in office and Clinton. The point is, it's transpartisan. It's outside of parties. The big parties are both controlled by the financial interest, not by Cass Sunstein, who is a wicked person, but not the most dangerous man in America. It is the mega corporations that want to consolidate wealth, that want to collectivize things at the grassroots and transfer it to themselves offshore. That's what the New World Order is. The banks that created the derivative scam to buy up real assets. Then when it implodes, they get billions and even trillions in bailout money and don't loan it out. They keep it for themselves and buy up even more of our infrastructure. That's the full story. And I know that you listen. I know that your staff listens. I know that you take what we do and change it and then make it even slicker. But I also understand that MSNBC posed as the anti-establishment under Bush. Once Obama got in, they became pro-establishment. So know this, we're watching you. We're tracking what you're doing. We're watching Mr. Ailes. You're not going to get away with getting back into power and then having your bosses stage some type of terrorist attack and then having everybody forget about all the promises you guys made to cut taxes and shrink the size of government. 2 years ago, when I saw Dick Morris come out and tell Sean Hannity, hey, the conspiracy theorists were supposedly crazy, but they're right. There is a world government.
And those people who have been yelling, oh, the UN's going to take over global
Conspiracy
government.
theorists.
They've been crazy, but now they're right.
I saw that as a major signal that you guys had been denying this for decades, keeping conservatives and libertarians in the dark, telling them that it was a kook detector test and that, you know, none of this stuff existed. I want to believe that you're not just taking on our political colorations because you know which way the wind is blowing and that the establishment thinks they can con the constitutional populism back into serfdom one more time. The fact that you plagiarize most of our work and never give us credit, I'm not worried about it because I want the truth to get out. I want my children to have a future. I want them to live in a free society. And I understand the establishment's scared of me. They know they couldn't buy me. I was offered, Glenn, the job you have a decade ago. I was told I'd be the next Rush Limbaugh. I was told I'd have a TV show, the book deals, all of it, but that I had to not talk about the New World Order. Now, you clearly have this position now and are able to speak about it. And years ago, your news coverage was filled with disinformation and propaganda. Now, there is less and less of it, but at the end of the day, know this, Glenn Beck, The population is going to be here. They're going to remember what you said and what you did and what you covered. But for the viewers that are watching this on the internet and people that are listening to this on my radio show and at Infowars.com, we have to just take a moment here and savor the success we've had. The federal government is in the low 20s in their approval rating. The mainstream media is in the low 20s. There has been a major political shift that's happening. And whether some elements of the system have decided to join us because they understand we're going to win, or whether they're trying to co-opt us, that doesn't matter. History's on our side. As Martin Luther King said, the universe bends towards justice. As Gandhi said, first they ignore you, then they attack you, then you win. After all these decades of them trying to suppress this system while they were building it, they're admitting world government's real, but they're saying it's good on CNN and MSNBC. And Fox News is admitting it's real and saying it's bad. Because the alternative media did their job of exposing it, they're now at least having to have a debate about it. I mean, Edward Mandel House being for world government. The Council on Foreign Relations wanting to set up tyranny. Glenn Beck is covering it all.
This one is Colonel House. He helped start the Federal Reserve. He started the Council of Foreign Relations. He created groups like that to circumvent the process, to put it in place of what our founders had put on.
World population reduction. The fact that the government only wants to come in and put taxes on salt and fattening foods to set the precedent to control everything.
Lippmann said, well, we could get to the administration through eugenics, which was an American idea. It ended in Germany in the Holocaust.
He is hitting every point, and it's wonderful. It's good. It shows that they cannot stop the truth, and the system knows they can't beat us, so they've joined us. Whether they've joined us because they understand that in this global tyranny, they have no future, or because they're attempting to mimic us because they understand that they can't beat us, we've won. We're winning. Glenn Beck on Friday talked about the dangers of ending the separation of church and state in the First Amendment. But did he talk about faith-based initiatives and George W. Bush and the clergy response teams where they're having preachers being secretly funded by FEMA to teach their flocks to go to FEMA centers, to take inoculations, to turn their guns in because, quote, the government's biggest enemy is us? Did you cover that, Glenn? Look at your children, Mr. Beck. Look at your children, Mr. Murdoch. All of you. Think about what you're doing. You all get into this global government system. You compete with each other within the structure to try to be at the top of the capstone. But the top of the capstone is death and destruction. It's the end of freedom. There's three different alternatives here. You're either a cold-blooded operative who's just getting people's confidence and allowing the news writers, who are clearly highly intelligent, to prepare this information for you. And at the key juncture, like you did with the banker bailout, you're going to support future acts of tyranny. Or the system is building you up to be the figurehead of the patriot movement to destroy you. Or there's a major fissure within the power structure, and you are being used to try to block certain factions of the globalists, bringing in a Mao Zedong type violent, great leap forward reorganization. And of course, in that third way, there's a subsect, and that's even more sophisticated, and I'll talk about that more on my radio show next week. Glenn, you've come a long way, and I'm glad that myself and many others have been able to teach you. And I'll add that your delivery is much more powerful and focused than mine. I don't have people to put makeup on me. I don't have teleprompters. And to see my information being on national television vicariously through you is a great fulfillment, because all I care about is the information getting out to people. And so I just want to tell you, Glenn, for whatever reason you're doing this, it's going to end up for good in the end. Beck, you're covering Cass Sunstein that we documented 2 years ago. You're talking about how the global elites want to exterminate us. Please go all the way. Quote Queen Beatrix. Quote Prince Philip. Quote Ted Turner. Come out against them all. Come out against Bill and Melinda Gates. Do it. Do it. We don't have any future if you don't. They're setting up a scientific technocracy, and you know that. But the biggest criticism is that you still support these wars that killed over 1 million Iraqis. Glenn, come all the way. When I'd watch you a couple years ago, in my spirit, in my gut, I had a very bad feeling. And now looking into your eyes, I think you realize that destiny of humanity is a little bit bigger than serving the New World Order. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.